Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for a brand new Film Fanatic show. It is Sunday Fun Day, June 28th, coming up on the end of June already, 2026. Just flying right the fuck by. But that's what happens during the summer. Summertime is my favorite season. The weather's been pretty serious. It has been just awesome lately, so it's been really cool. And had some fun gigs. Had a really fun gig last night at the Poor Farm. Poor Farm is a really awesome brew pub in Union. I think, as far as alcohol goes, I'm more of a beer guy. Occasionally, I like liquor, tequila, or sometimes I have mixed drinks or gin. But generally, actually had gin last night. But I I'm a beer guy, and one of the coolest things about here, living here in Mid Coast Maine, and it's a New England thing, but I think especially in Maine is that there's a lot of really great brew pubs and a lot of great places that make their own beer, and I think so if you like good beer, it's pretty amazing. My favorite locally made beer is at the Poor Farm, which is located in Union. So good. It's such a cool spot. And so with Quantum, we've played there. Uh, yeah, we've played a lot of gigs there over the years, and kind of started after. It's probably started. You know, um, Probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, which is crazy. But we usually play a Quantum show there every summer, and it's great. I've done a couple of shows where I had my friend Tom Luther, who lives right next door, who is a really really talented guy who's also an electronic music composer. I mean, so many different things. We did a we did like two shows I think where we played together, and then we've done like solo shows. We've done just like our sets there, and so kind of kind of usually do it every summer. We usually do it in either June or July, but it's super fun. And so we played last night, and yeah, it was really great. It was my first time playing at the Poor Farm with just myself, just solo. And so, because now going forward, and the way this year has been, Mike Whitehead, who has been in the band for many years, moved on to just do some other projects. He got really busy. Or I should say, he's been Mike Whitehead, who has been a really great friend and a kind of a I feel like he's kind of been a teacher for me. I've always referred to him a lot at gigs for Quantum gigs, like whenever I do kind of like introductions, like I introduce him or whatever at shows. There's been so many times where I introduce him as like Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I've learned so much from him. But it was probably a few months ago now, but and again we've been playing together for like 10 years in Quantum, and then also in a bunch of other different bands over the years as well. And he kind of felt it kind of ran its course, just kind of naturally ran its course. So he moved on to kind of concentrate on his jazz group that he has currently, and he's teaching. He's been teaching for quite a while now at Bay Chamber Music, which is an amazing music school, and he runs a jazz ensemble there. He also teaches trumpet. Trumpet is his main instrument, and so he's been really busy with that. So I've been just doing Quantum, or carrying on as Quantum, just as myself. So it's been a fun adventure, and it's taken me a while to kind of get my bearings a little bit and to kind of like figure some new pathways on just being by myself on stage. So it's been a lot of fun and cool. It's been a cool series of discovering new things. And so we play. So I played last night and uh, at the Poor Farm, and it was really great. It was nice weather, so we're able to play out on the deck. There were actually a lot of people there last night. The bar, it was funny. The weather was a little iffy. It was kind of gray and overcast, and it rained for like 2 seconds. But then it kind of cleared up, and it went back and forth for a while. But it was overall ended up being a very nice day. And the bar inside was was really busy, and then there were people out by the water area, and then I would sit up on the deck, and it was kind of cool. It was like I played a lot more of the ambient stuff, which I tend to do there anyway. Ambient, more of the ambient jazz stuff, and I kind of try to mix it up. And it was cool. They had all the windows. They opened up all the windows so everybody could hear the music inside, and I couldn't really see anybody, but the bar itself was packed, pretty busy inside, and then there were people outside, kind of, but people were mostly inside, and I got some good feedback. I also had some friends show up, which I hadn't seen in a long time. That was really nice. And I usually just play there once a year. Once, I usually always get one gig there a year during the summer, but they seem to be really into it. So I'm gonna try to sneak in and set up another date. Like later this summer. They were wanting to have me back, maybe in another month or two. So that was great. So there'll be hopefully another show there. I really love that spot. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spot. And then today I have another show with Quantum. We're going to be playing at the Sea Hag Cider, which is in Rockport. Another very, very cool place. Kind of similar in vibe to the Pour Farm. It's a hard cider. They make their own hard cider, and it's a brew pub. And I played a show there last, it was probably about a month ago, maybe a little less. And I have another show there today. And my first time there, I played inside because the weather was kind of iffy. But today's looking pretty nice. So they have a big deck, so I'm going to be outside. So we'll see how that goes, which will be nice. And then I have another show there coming up on the 5th as well on Sundays. So very, very cool spot. I also have one or two other gigs there with another band. Brand new venue that just gotten a chance to play at this year. So really, really fun. It starts at 2 o'clock if you're around in Rockport. It's a pretty chill, cool, very, very cool environment. They have a food truck. They had a Mexican kind of styled food truck that was there last time. And I'm not a big hard cider fan, but I did have some at the gig, and it was very good. So looking forward to trying something different, and yeah, we'll be playing from 2 to 4 today. So yeah, and I've been kind of going back to trying to getting back as far as Film Fanatic stuff goes. I've been trying to go back to finish out some of these lists of movies that I've been actually sitting on for quite a while. But I get inundated pretty quickly with movies. I watch movies all the time. And I started these two lists. One on this is the actual list here. This is an actual list of movies that I saw, my chicken scratch, from quite a few months ago, from the winter time. Probably January, February, maybe even March. I had went through a very, very dark period, and I barely made it out alive. But my TV broke, and so I was without a TV for like 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, it was tough. I needed some interventions, but I was able to find a YouTube channel called the Film Crypt, which is really, really awesome. So this list, or this paper, is now I've had a TV now for quite a few months now. I got a new TV, but I haven't revisited or checked out the YouTube channel in a while, but I'm sure there's a bunch of really cool movies uploaded there now. I've been recommending the channel to people too, because it's really good. There's a lot of great films, a lot of all kinds of crazy, wild exploitation movies. This in this list was a list that I made quite a while ago of all the movies that I watched on the Film Crypt, and I'm getting down to the nitty gritty. I only got a few more movies on here. So yeah, I'm excited to finally finish this off. There's one, two, I think like three more movies on this list, two or three more, and then I'll be done. There was quite a few on here, but really cool. Some of the movies on Film Crypt I had never seen before. Some were movies that I owned. Some were movies that I had heard about. One in particular that I was really excited to see and finally got a chance to see it is Mario Bava's Bay of Blood, which is such a fucking killer movie. And I had heard about this movie for a long, long time. I had never seen it, and they have on Film Crypt. There's a really great transfer of Mario Bava's Bay of Blood, which is such an amazing film. If you're a fan of the Friday 13th franchise, like I am, like that's my favorite horror franchise, slasher franchise, I highly recommend Bay of Blood because it's wild. It's up for debate, but I have not seen any definitive proof of it. But there are whole scenes in Bay of Blood that are literally replicated in the first Friday 13th. It's a trip. But according to like every interview that I've seen over the years, I've seen quite a few interviews and read a lot about it with Sean Cunningham, the creator, and Victor Miller of the Friday 13th franchise. They have never ever brought, as far as I know, I've never seen anyone, I've never heard them even mention Mario Bava as a director, but let alone Bay of Blood as being an influence or a movie that they've even seen. So who knows? Who knows? But watching it, there are so many scenes where you're like, wait, they had to have seen this. They ripped this movie off. But according from what I've read, they haven't. It could also be just a crazy coincidence that's a thing. Because the thing that is different between Mario Bava's Bay of Blood and Friday 13th is, I mean, there's probably more similarities than there aren't, but the story itself and a lot of the things within the story and some of the characters are really really different. Like, not it is a slasher movie, but the story and kind of what is going on, the further you get into the story of Bay of Blood, it's very very different than Friday 13th. I mean, those guys, Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham, have always said they've always talked about how, very out in the open and putting it out on the table that they you know are all about John Carpenter's Halloween and trying to like replicate that and ripping it off. So they've always said that. But I don't know. I think they're both very different movies, even though they're iconic slasher films, obviously, and probably I think it's safe to say that Friday 13th and Halloween are probably the most popular, but probably the most influential slasher films. Even though the genre is massive, and you got all these other films like Black Christmas and all these other things that have come before it. But anyway, so I've been working my way down this list finally, and it's been a lot of fun. I never run out of movies or things that I really want to talk about when it comes to film, and I've been mixing things up and doing shows on music, which has always been a lot of fun as well. So it's a good time. So today's show is on a movie I had never seen before, and again, this is one of the coolest things about the Film Crypt is I have like just discovered so many movies that I never got a chance to see before, which I think is definitely obviously the coolest aspect of it because for obvious reasons. There's definitely a handful of movies on the Film Crypt YouTube channel that I have seen or that I've owned on Blu-ray. I definitely want to go and check out the site, the page again to see what else is uploaded on there because when I was watching the channel fairly well every night for 2 or 3 weeks, he or she or they or what have you, they were uploading movies pretty regularly, like every few days. So I would imagine now there's probably a ton of other movies because it's been quite a few months. So, but I've been, again, I got a new TV a while ago now, and I, been buying movies. I'm going to actually go up to Bangor tomorrow to meet up with a friend for some beers, and I might hit up Bull Moose since I'm up there, but we'll see. I got a little bit extra cash, so probably should do that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, and it's been really cool. Like, just the main thing with this channel is discovering all of these movies that I had never seen before. And this one movie I think I did hear about, which I'm going to be talking about today, is it's a Spanish produced film from 1983, and it's kind of part of the whole sword and sorcery genre, which massive, massive fan. And it's kind of, I guess you could say this is kind of like the equivalent to a Conan the Barbarian kind of ripoff or knockoff film, but done by a Spanish company. And this movie is called Hundra, and it came out in 1983, and it's it's really awesome. I had never seen this before. The transfer for Hundra is or was killer. I had heard of this movie. I mean, of course, the Conan the Barbarian series and the whole sword and sorcery genre is massive. So many great movies. I love the sword and sorcery genre to death, and this is a really, if you're a big fan of this genre, this is definitely one of the best movies. And it's a Spanish produced sword and sorcery film starring Lorraine Landon as a titular warrior woman, an archer, and a sword fighter raised in a tribe of fierce women who despise men. And she basically kills men the entire movie. It's pretty badass. After her tribe is destroyed, she vows revenge, but her path leads her to find love, which challenges her beliefs. And it was directed by Matt Simber. The film is known for its action, feminist themes, and one of the coolest things about this movie, which I again was my first time seeing it. I had heard of this movie growing up, but I just never got a chance to see it. And it came out in '83. The best decade, pretty much. It was the score was composed by Ennio Morricone, the the one of the greatest film composers of all time. Did he Ennio Morricone? I did a show on Ennio Morricone quite a while ago. I think it was maybe a couple of years ago now. One of my favorite composers, well, just in general, but when it comes to film score stuff, I mean, it doesn't get any better. I would have to say, when it comes to film composers, I think my two favorites are my number one composer for like films and I guess you could say television too, but is Angelo Badalamenti, who was the film composer for all of David Lynch's films. Amazing. Just a legend, my favorite composer of all time. And I have to say, probably Ennio Morricone is probably my second favorite. Just incredible. And I think Ennio Morricone and also Angelo Badalamenti, they're so unique. I think when you hear, at least for the way my brain works, if I hear like 2 or 3 minutes, or even 2 or 3 seconds, for that matter, of music that's composed by them, whether it's a movie that I have that they've done or what have you. They have such a distinct style and flavor. I can tell right away that it's either Angelo Badalamenti or Ennio Morricone. It's such a distinct sound and such a certain kind of vibe. And Ennio Morricone, just amazing. I mean, he's probably most well known for all of the work that he did with Sergio Leone, all of the great spaghetti westerns, and so many great films. I mean, just an endless amount of work. One of my favorite works that he ever did was the soundtrack and film score for John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think is the greatest horror movie ever made, pound for pound. It's untouchable. I recently bought that on Blu-ray. I had been trying to get that for a long time, and I don't know. It was weird. I was having a hard time finding a very like the kind of definitive version of that movie on Blu-ray, and I finally got it. I had a DVD version of it for the longest time, and which was at the time when I got it, which was over 10 years ago, was a collector's edition. It's really good, but the disc itself actually cracked. So I was out without that movie for a while, and I had never seen it. I had never seen it on Blu-ray, which is insane. But I finally got an amazing version of the thing. So amazing, amazing. And of course, Ennio Morricone passed away. Well, they both unfortunately have passed away. They both left us. But both composers, Angelo Badalamenti and Ennio Morricone. I mean, when you look at their body of work, it's legendary. They are, for me, the most influential and the greatest. So, Ennio Morricone won an Academy Award. I think it was the year before he passed away for The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino's Western, which is amazing. I love that fucking movie to death, and his film score for that is just absolutely. It's some of the greatest work I think Ennio Morricone's ever done. But he won the Academy Award for that, and I think he passed away a year or two after. But amazing. And Angelo Badalamenti passed away a few years ago, and that was very, very sad. But their legacy, all of the music and wonderful films that they've scored for, I mean, it's pretty inspiring. And the film score for Hundra is just awesome. I mean, it's so awesome. I mean, it doesn't get any better. And the set design, the production of Hundra is really great. I mean, this was done in 1983, so I'm all about, when it comes to movies, and especially action movies, but just in general, I mean, I'm all about, real sets, practical effects. I'm, through and through a practical effects guy. I'm not, I think, and I've talked about this a lot. There are some really good examples of movies, more modern films that use, say, a lot of CGI, a lot of computer graphics. But then there's also a really cool, which I think, like everything has like this kind of weird cycle to it, where they kind of everything kind of comes back around. And I think that's what's happened with practical effects. I'm seeing, and more. I mean, this year, 2026, has been an incredible year for film. And when it comes to horror and just, well, fantasy too, but when it comes to horror especially, it's the I think the horror genre is bigger now than it's ever been. But when it comes to this style of filmmaking, we haven't really seen any new ones per se. but there still have been great films. And big films, bigger films that have these huge kind of elaborate set pieces. I'm starting to see, like, again, that kind of full circle thing of where there's more and more when it comes to gore and horror films and say action films for that matter. It seems that there are more and more. There seems to be kind of a return to practical effects. Everything's kind of more or less in camera. And also, what I've been noticing too with certain films is that there's been more of a thing of, where sets are being built, and there's that feeling of when you see. I think, and Hundra is a perfect example of that. Everything that you see, like the locations that this film is shot in, and the sets, like they're all built. They're all actually handmade. They're all handcrafted. Everything kind of feels lived in and kind of weathered, and it feels like these characters are really a part of their environment. They're really attached to them because they've been, it feels like they've been living there. And back in '83, I mean, this was decades at this point before the CGI age that's emerged. Everything you see is kind of what you get. I mean, the set design is amazing, and this is a very low budget film, but yet the every dollar that they had for for the production of Hundra is seen on screen. They maximized every dollar. And so all of the scenes, and it definitely is, it's a sword and sorcery film, so there's a lot of epic, battle scenes and a lot of great cinematography, scenes where there's lots of extras with, these battle scenes with lots of soldiers and warriors, horseback scenes, all kinds of shit, and everything that you're seeing is real, and it just has that, you know, lived in tangible quality to it, and you can't beat it. And it's amazing when you think of considering how low budget this film is. And it's definitely, I would say it's like you know, a Conan the Barbarian knockoff. And I'm, massive fan of Conan the Barbarian, of course. Conan came out in 1982, and this came out the year after. So this is definitely an exploitation movie. It definitely is a knockoff. There's been many knockoffs or ripoffs of Conan the Barbarian, which is a masterpiece. I haven't seen it in a really, really long time. I do need to get that on Blu-ray. I desperately need to get that on Blu-ray. But I can't recommend Hundra enough. I would definitely love to buy this on Blu-ray. I've only seen this movie one time, and it was quite a few months ago. I think it was in maybe March, early March. But I'm finally getting around to doing a show on this classic film. It's killer, and yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Super fun. It's kind of astonishing too. Again, like I said, because this is definitely like Conan the Barbarian knockoff, and it's definitely a very low budget exploitation movie. But it also feels like it's a big budget film because of the how they were able to maximize every dollar, every cent for the big screen, and it just looks amazing. And again, with with most of these films that are on the Film Crypt YouTube channel, which I can't recommend enough, there's a ton of YouTube channels out there that I know have free movies or downloaded films that you can watch and all these things. But I think the Film Crypt is probably the best one I've come across. Like, it's really, really great. The quality's just awesome. I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, it's worth your time. Killer movie. So peace.